It's the new year. It's time to get back to work, everybody. USC's coaching staff is on the road. They're recruiting. There's a new GM coming to save the day, and USC found another quarterback in the transfer portal. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube, wherever you're going to download this podcast, it's always going to be free, and I am always going to appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. The dead period is over, which means the coaching staff is on the road. Yeah, they're showing their faces all over high school campuses, making sure they let all those recruits out there know USC's interested in you, or some of you. I'm going to let you know where they are and who they're checking out. I'm also going to tell you that USC found a former five-star quarterback, got him out of the transfer portal. And also on the show, in the third segment, we're going to talk about what Ryan Karchi from the LA Times is reporting, that USC is getting ready to hire another general manager for their front office. And that'll take place sometime in the next 2-3 weeks. There was really no timetable given. We're going to talk about all that. A lot going on. So sit down, relax, enjoy. Here we go. I'm going to start with USC's newest quarterback, a five-star. Does the name Sam Heward sound familiar? I'm sure the last name sounds familiar to some of you. His uncle's USC's quarterback coach, Uncle Luke. Sam's father, Damon, played quarterback at Washington. He was pretty good back in the day. Sam was literally considered one of the best quarterback prospects in the 2021 recruiting cycle. It was Caleb Williams, Quinn Ewers, and then Sam Heward. Those were the top three. As I mentioned, he's a Washington Husky legacy. His dad, Damon, was the starter up there. Sam originally signed with Washington out of high school. Made sense. Since then, since his stint in Seattle, he's played at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And then last season, he was a Utah Ute. Did you know that? I didn't. I had no idea he was on that roster. In 2023, when he was with Cal Poly, Sam threw for 2,200, almost 2,250 yards, and he did that in 9 games. Again, prior to that, Heward was at Washington for 2 years. He put up a little bit of numbers in 2021, but then he found the bench in 2022. Why? I mentioned the name Caleb Williams. Well, Sam Heward literally went through what Miller Moss went through at USC. So when Caleb Williams arrived, Miller knew that he wasn't going to be playing. In 2022, when Kalen DeBoer took over the Washington Huskies program, he brought along with him quarterback Michael Penix Jr. That pretty much sealed Sam's fate. So when Penix decided to return in 2023, Sam said, I'm out. Got to leave. Got to go find playing time somewhere else. He went to Utah. In 2024, this past season, he actually ended the season with according to Coach Whittingham, it was an unnamed injury that required surgery. I guess everybody found out in November, I think. Quote, Sam Heward had surgery some time ago that has ended his season. Coach Whittingham told the radio station KSL in Salt Lake City. He's not physically able to perform, and he's out for the rest of the year. So when Cam Rising was also lost for the rest of the year, I think it was like at the halfway point. Shocker, right? Cam Rising getting hurt. Everyone was wondering, why didn't Heward get a chance to play? Well, everybody found out in November. That's why. So again, Heward, he was a 5-star recruit who's out of Bellevue, Washington, Kennedy Catholic High School, number 3 overall prospect. And I mentioned the 2 quarterbacks in that recruiting cycle who were ahead of him. He's a left-hander. He's got skills to play at this level. Do not be mistaken by that. I remember seeing him up close and personal at the Elite 11 finals. Dude can spin it. He can throw the ball with the best of them. He's got some mobility. Again, I don't know what his injury was, whether it was an arm injury, a leg injury. It's undisclosed. So here's the question. Is he good enough to pass over Jaden Mayava? We'll see. I don't think so. But at least Coach Riley now has 3 legitimate scholarship quarterbacks in that room. That's huge. Again, he hasn't lived up to those 5-star, and I'm using finger quotes, expectations in college. But now, look, he gets a chance to work with Riley. His uncle, Coach Riley, is supposed to be, the quarterback whisperer. So that was some really good news. USC filled a position of need in the transfer portal. They found their 3rd quarterback that can compete for playing time this upcoming season. USC got more good news on for their roster. Lake McCree. He put out a message on X on social media. He's coming back in 2025. 6'4", 250-pound tight end. He was very short, concise, to the point. His message said simply, last one, best one. Hashtag run it back. That's great news. I love Lake McCree. For me, this is a really significant move, not because the dude is a warrior. I mean, yeah, he's one of the toughest SOBs on the roster. You've heard me label him that before. But outside of USC's starting offensive linemen, well, the 5 who played last year, as well as Miller Moss, did you know this? Outside of the 5 starting O-linemen and Miller Moss, who missed the last 3 games, not one player on offense took more snaps than Lake McCree in 2024. And let me remind everybody, he missed games with an injury. It's amazing. Dude is a warrior. He will give you every single thing he has. His return means more than just, hey, you've got an experienced guy who knows the offense and who you can count on, rely on during the season. What his return also means is that the younger guys, guys like Joey Olson and Walker Lyons and Walter Matthews, who we haven't seen play yet. Don't forget Nila Tapo. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing tight end or defensive end. They'll figure that out. But now those younger guys have someone they can still look up to for guidance. Because don't forget, Cade Eldridge, he jumped on the transfer portal. He went back home to Washington. So the Trojans are eventually going to have a new tight end coach. Remember, Zach Hansen is now the offensive line coach. But I think with McCree coming back, you have somebody with that experience, that wisdom, who's been through everything. You got the younger players have kind of like a player coach that they can talk to. That's really important. Lake McCree is one of those true Trojans that I was talking about on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. So great news, right? You got a quarterback coming in for some competition, former 5-star. USC got Lake McCree coming back. So things aren't as gloomy as some might make it out to be. I understand that Emmanuel Prignon news kind of hit everybody. It was a gut punch. Everything will be fine. Trust me. Everything will be just fine. All right. Dead period's over. Where are the USC coaches? Where are they going? Where are they at? I'll tell you in the next segment. Attending the new 12-team college football playoff games has been an incredible experience for a lot of fans, bringing everybody together. I remember the excitement of the past playoff games, and I can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and all these extra teams that are involved. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events super easy. It filters out all the fluff. It's only going to show you the incredible deals on great seats. You're not going to be wasting your time looking through thousands of different tickets. I have told you before, we know the football season's over. Spring camp will be here soon. But basketball's in full effect. Get out to Galen Center. Go support the men and the women's team. Use Game Time. Look, you already know how much I love to see the seat views before buying and before you check out. You know what your total cost is going to be up front. Yeah. Game Time also guarantees that if you find a ticket in the same section and row for less, they're going to credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms are going to apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, that's college, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Mention it, dead period's over. Everyone's back to work, hitting the road, putting USC's name in their mouths, hopefully. So the staff is on the road. They're making visits all over the country, including Southern California. I'm not sure which coach went down to Long Beach to visit Millikan, my alma mater. Yep. Anyways, USC had some presence there on campus Monday. I'm not sure who they're looking at. I'm going to assume it was probably an offensive lineman. Did you know that Millikan is probably going to be the best team in the Moore League? Yeah. You think about it. They've literally lapped. They've passed over Long Beach Poly. Millikan might have 5 guys on their offensive line in 2025 who's going to play college ball, whether they're D1 guys or whatever. Millikan's doing it. They're getting guys to come to them. I mean, I think they even convinced Bishop Amott's best offensive lineman to transfer to Millikan. Not a big fan of that whole paradigm, but look, high school is going to emulate college. This is the world we live in right now. By the way, since we're talking about Millikan, remember Ryan Pellin, the wide receiver? He's back in the transfer portal. He also attached the do not contact tag to his name, which typically means he has a pretty good idea where he's going, or he just doesn't want to be inundated with phone calls. He'll let programs know which ones he's interested in. Ryan Pellin was the guy who flipped his commitment from USC on signing day, literally. In 2024, here's his stat line. 0 catches, 0 yards, 1 fumble. So he's back in the transfer portal. Is USC interested? They have him on his radar, but I think they have other guys ahead of him. I think that's understandable. There's probably, I think it's safe to say Ryan might have burned the bridge a little bit, but we'll see what happens. Coach Lincoln Riley, Coach Antonlynn, they were hanging out together down south, Southern California, San Clemente, San Diego. Let's start there. They were at Mount Miguel High School. That's in La Mesa, Spring Valley area, home of Reggie Bush. They were checking in on one of the top defensive backs in the 2026 class. His name is Brandon Arrington. Now, according to On3, Texas A&M has the lead over USC for his recruitment. But let me remind everybody, the Trojans 2026 recruiting class, it already has 7 commitments, and which is good enough to have the number 2 ranking nationally, again, according to On3. It's got, I mentioned the name Xavier Griffin on yesterday's episode, who is still solid. He's still locked in with USC, but he's planning to take visits. But I think the reason why Texas A&M probably has a lead over USC when it comes to Brandon Arrington, 2 of the 7 are guys with the names R.J. Sermons, yeah, number 1 cornerback in the state. It might be in the country. And then you also got Brandon Lockhart, another top DB that USC likes. Those guys are already committed. So I think that makes it easier to understand why Arrington is probably looking for less competition. Excuse me. I mentioned San Clemente, home of Sam Darnold. They were appreciative of USC's head coach, defensive coordinator stopping by. Coach Henny, where was he hanging out? How about the state of Washington? He went up to the Pacific Northwest. One player in particular that he was checking out, 3-star, for those of you who care about that stuff, 6'1", 210-pound linebacker. His name is, I'm going to do my best to pronounce this, Wassi Lugolobi. Wassie, first name. Last name, Lugolob, like boy, I. Again, this is why I don't look at the star rankings. Number one, these things are going to get adjusted as the season plays out. Mostly, I like to look at the programs that are offering. That tells me if you've got talent, if you're a Power 4 program level player. So, young man's got offers from the home state of Washington, Colorado's in there, Arizona State, Tennessee, Louisville. Coach Henny made the trip. USC offered. Unfortunately, still, right now, USC doesn't have a linebacker coach yet. But Coach Henny, I guess, is kind of helping out with the evaluation process. So he made the offer. Eventually, USC is going to name their linebacker coach. The NFL season's over, right? Right? Yeah, the playoffs are going on. I have to assume USC's next linebacker coach is still in the playoffs. I really don't know why it's taken so long. Nevertheless, this is where we're at. We know that USC has really good interest, big interest, and they're probably considered the favorite for Walker's younger brother at quarterback, Ryder Lyons, class of 2026, Folsom, California, up north near Sacramento. Well, Ryder's offensive tackle, he's 6'7", 275 pounds. He's also part of the 2026 class. Young man's name is Vlad, V-L-A-D, Kyakonov, K-Y-A-K-O-N-O-V. Sounds Russian, right? Here's all I need to know. The dude's name is Vlad. Number one, he's 6'7", 275. He's a junior going into his senior season, and he's already got that frame. Yeah, sign me up. And anybody who has the name Vlad, sign me up if they're known for impaling people. That's an imposing, that's an intimidating name. I don't care. What's your name? Vlad the Impaler. Yeah, go ahead and line up against that guy. So again, there's a lot going on right now. Coaches are on the road. Transfers are taking visits to USC. And soon enough, there's going to be a new general manager added to Coach Lincoln Riley's staff. What's interesting about that, when that announcement comes, how much power is Coach Riley going to delegate to this new GM? I'm not saying he's replacing Dave Emmerich. I have no idea what the new role is going to be. Let me remind everybody that when USC and Coach Riley, and he brought in his staff, Dave Emmerich, to be the general manager, finger quotes, but the duties then, 3-4 years ago, completely different because of the direction college football has gone in these last few years. I'm not saying Dave can't handle the duties. With that said, you need somebody who knows how to deal with, I don't know, the way the NFL works. Because I think that's the direction college football is going. You got to have somebody with those abilities. So we'll see how the whole thing works out. I'm going to talk about the new general manager, whomever that might be, in the next segment. Let's talk about that next. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Did you know right now, new customers, you can actually get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. You don't have to bet anything. Whatever you do, you're getting $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live betting. Same game parlays. You want to do the prop bet stuff? You want to know, you want to pick which player is going to score a touchdown? FanDuel, you can do it there. You want to decide how many points each team will score? Head on over to FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com. Join today. You're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoff season unforgettable. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. So, as I mentioned, when Dave Emmer took over the role of general manager at USC, the job description just a little different. You didn't have the type of player movement. You didn't have high school recruits demanding 7, 8 figure deals coming out of high school before they've ever played a down in college. That's where we're at right now. College football has literally turned into a free-for-all. Players are using the transfer portal for leverage. That quarterback who was committed to Cal, then flipped to Oregon, enrolled, he was signed. He was part of the Oregon Ducks roster when Ohio State went up, whipped their butts. He is back in the transfer portal. He's now going back to Cal. Again, this is why NIL is going to ruin the sport. It's going to kill it. Look, I'll say it again. I'm going to say it 100 times until everybody understands this. Everybody said, USC needs to get a general manager. That'll fix the problem. They need to go spend money and go get a Courtney Morgan. USC tried to get Courtney Morgan, Alabama's general manager. How's that working out over there right now? Not real well. Alabama's losing guys to the transfer portal too. And yeah, Nick Saban, resigning has a little bit to do with this. But this was last year. Whatever. It does not matter if USC brings in the best general manager from the NFL. This is not a USC staffing problem. This is a transfer portal problem. It's barely an NIL problem anymore. The NIL is the bait. It's the lure. The transfer portal makes it happen. Kill that December window. Did you know that USC hired a longtime NFL consultant that has front office experience? They did that back in, I think, before the season started, the 2024 season. That person came in, they kind of, assessed what USC's structure was, personnel-wise, kind of gave some suggestions and some advice where to invest, so to speak. So obviously, USC knows they have to enhance their front office. I'm not against, I am not against the idea of bringing in a general manager. I got into a really lengthy conversation, debate, discussion over there on wearesc.com earlier today. Get on over there, check it out. The biggest complaint from USC fans is that USC doesn't know how to do NIL. They don't know how to keep their players on the roster. And that the front office just isn't prepared when someone drops USC. I've heard the argument. I've heard the argument that a good general manager has options, B and C and D and E and F and G already all lined up once a player announces that they're leaving the program. So, okay, I hear that. Let me play contrarian. Let me give the other side of the coin. I've heard that argument. I get it. I really do. But let's use Emmanuel Prignon as an example. It's being reported. Oregon came in, made Prignon an offer bigger than the one USC, and E-Man agreed to prior to the bowl game. Apparently, it's another $150K. All right. So we know how quickly that news came out. Everyone's like, oh no, we're losing our best offensive lineman. How long was Prignon's roster spot available? How long was that vacant before USC signed another interior offensive lineman from Purdue? Mentioned him on yesterday's episode of Locked On USC. His name's DJ Wingfield. Wasn't it you? Let's use the Juju Lewis example. Wasn't it USC who told Juju, hey, bye, Felicia. We're taking Houston Longstreet instead? They had all their ducks in a row. They were prepared. But again, I don't care who USC brings in. They can bring in a Courtney Morgan. They can bring in the Detroit Lions general manager. the new GM is not going to be a panacea for what's broken at USC. Until somebody kidnaps Phil Knight and that December transfer portal window is closed, nothing will change the hearts and minds of those greedy teenagers, those young adults who just want to fill in their bank account. But Mark, a good GM is responsible for roster name, image, and likeness distribution, individual NIL evaluations, and where you decide to spend your money is one of the most important aspects of college football these days. Makes sense to have elite managers making those decisions. Okay. Again, nobody is arguing against that. I'm not. However, USC seems like they're already prioritizing NIL that way. Need another example? USC decided they're going to invest their money into Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon instead of trying to give all that money to Deuce Robinson and Zachariah Branch. Didn't USC make the decision not to pay Quentin Joyner the offer he wanted? They let him walk. That's so they could spend those funds on players like Elijah Page, Emmanuel Prignon. I'll say it again. I need this to sink in. Adding another general manager does not fix the transfer portal problem. Period. End of story. USC has two problems. The same people who are financing Lincoln Riley's contract, the coaching staff, paying for the football-only facility, those guys are being bled dry. Those are the people who are donating to House of Victory. So what about this, Mark? Quote, this is what I heard from somebody else. The GM can help with fundraising. It could better position us to compete with the child labor czar, Phil Knight. Okay. Let's say the next general manager or executive GM or whatever the role is has new fundraising ideas. Awesome. Again, I am in full support of thinking outside the box. Let's generate more NIL revenue. Can't hurt, right? Well, there's the other side. There's always two sides to an argument. You can barely get enough butts in the seats at the Coliseum. So you want people to donate to House of Victory to put that extra money into the war chest. Don't you have to be able to generate some enthusiasm, some excitement, get the butts in the seats at the Coliseum, find those new donors somewhere? Is that a GM's job? I don't think it is. GM, look, whatever the role is going to be, whether it's helping evaluate talent, helping to manage NIL funds, none of that is going to make this much of a difference. See that space between my finger and thumb? Yeah, that much. It's not an NIL problem per se. Yes, USC's NIL could be better. Close that transfer portal window in December. That's the problem. That's the problem. Once you take care of that issue, you can now start moving forward, trying to put a Band-Aid on everything else. All right, that's it. I have nothing else to say on this episode. I do, but I'm not going to say anymore. But I will be back tomorrow with another episode of Locked on USC. I'm going to have a special guest. We're going to talk about this general manager thing a little bit more. We're going to peel back the layers, maybe talk about some of the candidates that USC is considering. So until that next episode, everyone, you know what to do.